Hey, welcome back. I say welcome back because in order to get this video, you need to watch the first one. I'll link that down below along with a playlist containing all other videos in this series and Paul Shapiro's Bandcamp so you can go listen to the original work if you haven't. In this video, I'll be discussing the second part of the New Albion trilogy, the New Albion, Radio Hour, the Diesel Punk Opera. So let's jump right in. To preface, Acts 1 and 2 are two different perspectives of the same events leading up to the climax in Act 3. I could explain all of it as just, one chronology, but I'm gonna stick to the sequence of events that the album portrays just to aid in your understanding. Okay, let's get into Act 1. First, we meet our omniscient narrator for this journey, Lloyd Allen. The framing device for this album is a radio show with a fully fledged diesel punk orchestra to assist Lloyd in telling us the story. He tells us of the Battle of Criers Boulevard, which will apparently decide the outcome of a war. This is the central unifying event of the album. Anyway, the Dolls of New Albion leaves us with the promise that Soldier 7285, now a rogue agent, will destroy the fascist regime that had taken over New Albion. He goes underground and infests Parliament's water supply with a truth serum. And sure enough, all the leather boots now being forced to tell the truth starts an all-out civil war. Unfortunately, we don't really know what happens to 7285 at this point. 10 years later, the war is still raging on. The upper class of New Albion is now full of arms dealers just profiting off the carnage. The descendant of the red-haired dwarf, the homie that used to run the mafia, well, he's now in control of a gang of orphans who run contraband, alcohol, drugs, and even the government's postal service uses them to deliver, official mail. There are also these big power generators under the city that start emitting this dust that just so happens is a powerful drug. Make a mental note of this because this is super important. The distribution of this drug is controlled solely by 3 albinos that live in the underground of the city. Like I said, super important for events later in the series. But most important for this story is the super soldier program that the government initiates. They enhance these people with, technology and performance enhancing drugs to fight the rebellion. And now we get to meet one of those super soldiers, John O'Brien. He's locked away in this dark little bunker, and his only company are these 2 androids with screens for heads, so pretty lonely existence. John is barely recognizable as a human being. His body's been deconstructed and reconstructed, and now he's just this big muscly mass of iron and wires. Apparently, the super soldier plan just kind of failed. I guess all the other soldiers couldn't take it and just kick the bucket. But John is built different, I guess. He's the only one left. See, this guy's wife was killed during a rebel bombing, and he turns to alcohol to drown his sorrows. And I guess he's pretty recognizable within the town at this point, because he's out at this bar just drowning his sorrows, gargling his booze, when a super soldier recruiter spots him. He's like, "You hate the rebels because they killed your wife? Well, if you sign this contract, we can make you strong enough to kill all the rebels." And that sounds really good to John, but the problem is John's got a kid at home. So he's torn between leaving his young child all alone, but having the power to avenge his wife, and staying and taking care of her, but not getting revenge. He unfortunately takes the side of power and effectively orphans his daughter. So many orphans in these stories, right? Anyway, back to the present. John is dispatched to Criers Boulevard. Remember that from the beginning? They're tasked with infiltrating this facility, and they blow through them no problem. John bursts into a room, and all that's inside are 3 non-combatants. His boss has told him that everyone is highly expendable, so he gets ready to splatter him. But something stops him, a spark of recognition. His daughter is there. Holy moly. He just kind of stands there for a second before deciding that he'll become the alpha daddy he was always meant to be. So he raises his weapon, turns around, and leaves the room. He is now ready to reap the destruction he was meant to sow upon his daughter on his fellow soldiers. So, segueing into Act 2, we sort of roll back in time. Of course, this is, a separate account of the events leading up to what we just saw happen, right? This time we get the perspective of Constance O'Brien, who is, of course, John's daughter, if you couldn't tell by the last name. She's this super sexy spy now, and she gets hired to steal something called the MCG at this big soiree for New Albion's upper crust. Typically, she has her own gig, sort of stealing things for women whose husbands have left them. New Albion is controlled still by these fascists, and they don't like women very much, and so they don't really get a lot of rights. If they get divorced, the husband gets everything. She also has a partner in crime / boyfriend named Thomas assisting her in this endeavor to steal this mysterious MCG. Anyways, she infiltrates this soiree by pretending to be this attendee named Inanna. She uses her beauty and charm to worm her way through the crowd of elites and manages to successfully swipe the MCG. Unfortunately, though, she's not the only one looking for it. The cops burst in and shut the whole thing down. Constance has been found out, but she manages to dip. The piggies are hot on her trail, though. Unfortunately, she has to leave Thomas behind, and she assumes that he's captured by the police. She just books it, just keeps on running till she thinks she can't. She's then intercepted by a new character, her dear aunt and freedom fighter, Jacqueline O'Brien, who we'll just call Jackie. Jackie's like, listen, I know what you have and I want it, meaning the MCG, of course. The cops have already raided your place. You got nowhere to run but with me. The voodoo punks went underground after the whole doll situation, and Jackie's with them now. The fascist government really cracked down. They didn't like the voodoo punks very much. She gives her niece a map marked with where she wants her to bring the MCG, and Constance just books it again. She's got a date with Thomas. She intends to save Thomas from the police by trading the MCG for his life. And what a date it is, let me tell you that. She manages to meet up with him, and they have this big lovey-dovey reunion. But Thomas was an undercover cop this whole time. He pleads with her, he begs her, he promises her that if she just chills out and hands over the MCG, he can make sure that she lives. So Constance does what she knows best. She books it. Now that she really doesn't have anywhere else to go, she follows Jackie's map to the underground. While Lloyd is attempting to narrate events, something odd happens. Constance starts to hear Lloyd, as we do. She thinks she recognizes his voice. And then Lloyd urges her to stay in character. When Constance inquires as to who this mysterious voice she is hearing is, he hits her with the so awesome line, "Whoever the story needs me to be." He then gently lulls her back into character as Constance arrives at the Voodoo Punk's underground lair at Criers Boulevard. Were the eyebrow raises enough for you there? I'm going to skip over Constance's little backstory moment. One, because it's not super plot dependent, and two, I just really can't do the song justice. It's all about how Jackie feels and the emotion of the situation, so just go listen to it. Anyways, the rat boyfriend Thomas manages to catch up with Constance. He just can't give the girl a break. Thomas once again urges her to hand over the MCG. While undercover, he kind of developed a soft spot for Constance, so he promises her safety and even a life with him once they use the MCG to finish the war. Against the voodoo punks, of course. But uh-oh, here come Jackie and the voodoo punks to rain all over his parade. They kidnap him and retreat into their domain. Jackie then reveals the voodoo punks' master plan. They're going to summon spirits who will then possess Thomas. The songs that the spirits from Elysium sing are apparently so powerful that they can, scramble a person's brain, zombify them. They plan to use the MCG to transmit the song from the possessed Thomas into the helmets of all the soldiers, erasing their minds and, in turn, winning the war. Makes sense? So they complete the ritual. Thomas is now full of little ghosty guys. And here's where John O'Brien comes smashing into the room. The events that follow are the same as they were at the end of Act 1. He recognizes Constance as his daughter and turns his rage onto the other soldiers outside. And now, finally, it's time for Act 3. So we finally get to continue with the story. John returned to the surface to fight the soldiers on the side of the resistance fighters. After transmitting the songs into the helmets of the soldiers, Thomas and Jackie are waiting underground for the war to finally end. This gives them a lot of time to just sit alone with each other. Thomas tells his sad backstory about, why he decided to become a police officer, and Jackie explains why she joined the rebels. She basically had this girlfriend whose mother got divorced, remember, no rights and such. Anyway, said girlfriend ended up as a government worker. She was pumped full of drugs to make her docile and keep her in line. Jackie, after belting her heart-wrenching aria, starts to realize that they've been down there for a really long time, and that they should probably head back to the surface. Boyd tries to narrate the next events, explaining that Jackie hands over Thomas to the voodoo punks to be executed, but Jackie hears him and just straight up refuses. When was the last time that you listened to or watched something where the characters literally argue with the narrator? It's truly incredible. It really gives the characters such a strong sense of their own agency within the story. It's very effective. So, with reluctance, Lloyd narrates that Jackie and Thomas climb back up to the surface together. And now here's where we get the lowdown on what happened up above while Jackie and Thomas were waiting. And John was just absolutely ripping his way through his fellow soldiers, but an elite military unit known as the Blood Red Dogs showed up and the battle starts tipping in the government's favor. But then the MCG is activated, and one by one, the Blood Red Dogs, along with the rest of the soldiers, are hypnotized and frozen in place by the spirit's song. But it just isn't enough. Before they fall under the spell, they manage to win the fight. Luckily, John managed to barely survive. The song doesn't just infect the soldiers, though. It starts to spread like a virus. Very quickly, everyone in the city is turned into a mindless zombie, forced to sing along to the Song of the Dead. Jackie and Thomas finally arrive to greet Constance and John on the surface. So Jackie and Thomas have been possessed before, and John is half robot, so the song doesn't really work on them, thank God. But they're all kind of confused as to why Constance isn't infected. And don't ask me either, I have no idea. Maybe we'll find out in a future installment, who knows. Anyways, John and Jackie reunite as siblings, and they apologize to each other for being bad siblings and never calling each other on their birthdays. How sweet. So basically they're like, listen, the city is completely messed up. We gotta get out of here. But Constance ignores all of them and goes to the MCG to sing her own little ditty. While narrating the events, Lloyd gets kind of annoyed. He's like, "This resolution is super stupid. I don't want it to go down like this." And Jackie's like, "Chill, chill. The best tragedies are always the interpersonal ones, not the civilization ending ones." Lloyd, again, reluctantly agrees to change the narrative as the soldiers, as a result of Constance's song, come back to their senses. They all make the decision to sacrifice themselves as our beloved characters so that New Albion doesn't just fall completely. John, Jackie, and Thomas all prep themselves to fight once again, knowing this will most definitely be a losing battle. Thomas and Constance end up running away from the city together while John and Jackie fight the onslaught of soldiers. They both end up dying in the conflict, but John managed to take out every single soldier before he kicked the bucket. What a legend. Lloyd tells us that the rebels and the voodoo punks end up successfully taking Parliament, but they can't find common ground on how to rule. So this results in the city being sort of broken up into a bunch of different districts. Now, with the previous oppressive regime gone, the voodoo punks are free to roam the streets once again and start building their influence. If you're curious about what our favorite cult gets up to, make sure to come back for the next episode. And please, go listen to the New Albion tetralogy. I'll link Paul Chaper's Bandcamp down in the description. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like if you liked it. Don't if you didn't, I guess. And please subscribe. It would really be so awesome if you did. Subscribe. 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 Anyways, I'll see you in the next one where I'll be explaining the plot of the New Albion Guide to Analog Consciousness, an atom punk opera. Bye.